they did exactly what they meant to do and they made me really uncomfortable. That moment where he puts his hands over her face so that she's not getting rained on, and it just looks like something he's done time and time and time again. How much we as women want to see that emotional vulnerability. I think we've gotten so comfortable in the consumption of content that we've forgotten that there is a conversation that goes with content. So I've now seen Wuthering Heights twice, and I thought we'd be in a place to do a cozy review on my positive spin of seeing this movie and what I took out of it. Definitely after seeing it once, but even more so after seeing it twice. No, we aren't going to be talking about story authenticity as far as adaptation goes, but I really do want to talk about the emotional experience as a woman and the emotional reaction I feel like this movie created for me, but also and other people in the conversations I've been having online. So if that sounds like you, I'd love to have you. Let's do a little bit of an emotional deep dive and talk about the new Wuthering Heights. So I went in with the expectation that I just wanted to experience this movie. I haven't read the book. I knew that I would probably want to read the book after watching, but I wanted to let this be whatever it needed to be as a piece of art going in this time. And I came out of it, of course, just sobbing. My best friend is choking words next to me. My other friend is quietly crying. Everything is just so emotional for us that at that point we really had no words to process anything, and it took us several hours before it felt like we had any ability to conceptualize what we had just seen. And I think as somebody who's worked in film and television and has a degree in English literature, I always look at anything that I'm reviewing from the perspective of, did it reach the thing it needed to reach in me at the time? And I can 100% say that this did. It spoke to me in the ways that I needed it to speak to me. It brought something up for me that I wasn't aware was a quiet question for a while. And I think that for me is the sign of a good movie. There are so many categories when it comes to what we look at when we watch a film. The lighting was incredible. The costume design is phenomenal. The set decor, every little detail was well thought out. There were definitely a few moments, like some transitions, that were a little just, they did exactly what they meant to do and they made me really uncomfortable. That is the job going in. But when I sat down to kind of process my thoughts on what did this movie do for me at this time, what did I feel like I walked away with? Because the first time I went in and I just thought, wow, I didn't know what I was gonna get. I knew that somebody was going to die. I went through the play-by-play of where did they pull information and where were they kind of smartly dropping hints and where were they misdirecting us a little bit with the story, and we'll talk about all of that in a different video. Is that with just everything. To talk about what I want to kind of talk about next, I have to give context for my background and the understanding of just like my childhood mind, because I grew up in the South. I grew up in a very Christian Baptist bubble. And so there are still elements that when I see them in films, I realize that they evoke something in me. They evoke an experience that didn't feel allowed. They give permission to a desire I didn't know needed unearthing. They allow me to sit in something I haven't previously seen because maybe I haven't had that version of something in a relationship, or I've had a different level of toxicity. It just gave me such a reflective space to really draw a lot of questions into my own life and to pull out of it what felt like a whole new set of being like, huh, that's interesting. Is that something I want for myself? How do I feel about that? What is that telling me about my own needs and desires in life? Obviously, that is very vague given the context of this movie. There were so many moments, I think, in watching this, and that moment where he puts his hands over her face so that she's not getting rained on, and it just looks like something he's done time and time and time again, and he cares more for her safety, more for her concern. There were little choices that kind of validated that, and it brought up that just desire in me as a human seeing something. But then I think what was so beautifully done in moments that tends to not happen in these movies as often as they should, or if they are done, they're not done in a way that leans into the yearning and just seeing that depth of desire and want and need, but really the yearning is the shots where it's them connecting, the shots where she's being vulnerable, he's being vulnerable. I'm specifically thinking about the scene wherever they are kissing for the first time. And we kind of show the shot of them together and we hold on his face. We're not looking at the fact that she wants him, because in so much romance, we kind of always do that. It feels like we're always aware of how much she wants him, but not as aware of how much he wants her and how much he's willing to do for her. It always feels like the woman is the most frail emotional element in the storyline. And so to see his vulnerability in a way that we don't traditionally see, especially in a historical romance, but I think even more so in a movie that's definitely made for the girlies, it is made for women. It was just a reminder of when you're in a version of a relationship, you don't typically get to see that side because you're in it. And so you just kind of have to find ways to recognize that in the details of things. And it was such a nice reminder of just how much we as women want to see that emotional vulnerability, how much we want to see that desire. Of course, there was the groveling, there was the crawling on his knees, there were those other elements of things. It was very fun to have the girl chat afterwards to see, especially where everybody is in their current relationships, what they felt the most drawn to and what felt really compelling to them and what they were most just like latched onto immediately. For me, I came out of this thinking, of course, that it was so devastating. It was so beautifully done. And that last scene very much gave that Romeo and Juliet connection. The fact that we told the Romeo and Juliet story the first time that Catherine comes to Thrushcross Grange, and we actually only hear it up until the point that Romeo thinks that Juliet died. We never hear her talk about the fact that Romeo takes his own life and then Juliet comes back to life. And when I watched it the second time and I saw that, just that parallel of exactly how he was laying over her, and really remembering anytime we've seen that Romeo and Juliet ending, it tends to be paralleled the same. I think if you're willing to sit with yourself and your feelings after this movie, you have an opportunity to have a deeper conversation with yourself, what you need and what you want and what you desire. And I think so many women have gotten that even more so with the books that we've been reading in the last 6 or 7 years, or at least or more aware that everybody's reading right now, and just the genres and the characters that we find attractive. And I think it left me with the question of, as a woman, it feels like there's been such a strong conversation about the trust lost in men, and that has really expanded more and more over time. And then I sit with these moments where I'm reminded, in order to receive that vulnerability, there is a space in which you have to give that vulnerability, and it's felt harder and harder and harder for us to get to that place. And then you see something like this where he is just so vulnerable and we're lingering in it, and he really has more to risk, more to lose. She is the center of his world. And so watching all of that and kind of processing, what does that bring up for me watching it in this time? It's just the reminder of what art is for me. This movie could be the best thing you've ever seen. It could be the worst thing you've ever seen, but it is one of those things that no matter what, you have some kind of feelings on the other side of it. And that's what good art does, is it gives you space to think. It gives you space to feel. It asks you to step out of yourself and to consider something else. I think we've gotten so comfortable in the consumption of content that we've forgotten that there is a conversation that goes with content. And that conversation isn't just about our feelings about the content. It isn't just about us critiquing the content. It's about reflecting on what it draws out in us, and our ability to understand that art provides a form of communication with a version of ourselves that often goes really quiet. It's one of the things that I tend to be reminded of when I see films. It's something that always feels like a standard for me with how I am reading books, watching movies and TV. But I think that this was just, because it felt like I was almost wordless coming out of it, and I just had so much that I had slowly had to piece together and process. It really reminded me that that is such a rarity in how we choose to let these pieces of work exist in our lives. And it's such a beautiful thing. And I think in that way, it, alongside everything else that I loved about it, I think it's art and what it should be. It creates a reaction and invites us to look at something that maybe we didn't want to look at previously in our lives. That being said, I think there were some really smart directorial things that were being done that I want to talk about and will probably come back to. There will be a video going through all of the costuming choices, because I did notice a few things that really fascinated me and how they chose to tell this story and the ways in which the costumes were also telling the story. And it's just what I love about filmmaking. So that will be on the channel soon. But yeah, I loved it. It was a movie that I needed to see. It invited a lot of inner reflection for me. And that is one of my favorite things when it comes to intentionally consuming art at any time. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe. I do upload lifestyle and entertainment content on this channel. But for now, I love you. It is a good day to have a good day, and I will see you all in a new video very soon. Bye, guys.